Welcome to Truth Be Told About Going Wild. I'm your host, Robert Hensley, and this is the podcast inspired by the principles of personal rewilding. Today, I would like to talk a little bit about our biological imperative of nature, why humans need the outdoors. And I know that we've talked a lot about this. I brought it up in various forms. But today I wanted to specifically look at a couple of scientific studies from the past 5 years that really give us a sense of how imperative it really is. All right. For most of human history, survival depended on direct engagement with the natural world. Humans evolved outdoors, walking through forests, gathering food, navigating landscapes, and responding to changing weather, sunlight, and the changing of the seasons. Modern civilization, however, has shifted daily life to the indoors. Right? In most industrialized nations, many people spend as much as 90% of their time inside buildings or vehicles. Yet, the human nervous system, our immune system, and our psychological architecture still appear deeply adapted to natural environments. Recent medical and psychological research suggests that contact with nature is not merely recreational or aesthetic. It may represent a biological necessity for mental and physical well-being. Over the past 5 years, international medical journals have increasingly documented measurable benefits associated with outdoor activity and exposure to green and blue spaces. Green spaces being forests, blue spaces being coastlines. These findings support the emerging view that humans possess an intrinsic biological drive to interact with the natural world. One of the strongest bodies of evidence comes from research on nature-based interventions, or NBIs. A 2021 systemic review and meta-analysis published in SSM Population Health evaluated 50 studies involving structured outdoor activities such as gardening, green exercise, wilderness programs, nature therapy, and researchers found significant reductions in anxiety and depressive symptoms, along with improvements in positive mood and emotional well-being. The review concluded that outdoor nature-based activities are effective tools for improving adult mental health, especially when programs last between 8 and 12 weeks. Importantly, these benefits are not limited to intense wilderness experiences. Even brief exposure to nature settings appear to be physiological meaningful. A 2024 meta-analysis published in Ecopsychology reported that as little as 10 minutes of exposure to natural environments could produce measurable short-term mental health benefits for adults with diagnosed mental illnesses. Researchers observed improvements in mood, stress reduction, and emotional regulation across a wide range of natural settings, including in parks, along rivers, forests, and in coastal areas. The biological mechanisms behind these effects are increasingly understood. Natural environments appear to reduce activation of the sympathetic nervous system, the body's stress response system, while enhancing parasympathetic activity associated with recovery and calm. Exposure to green space has been linked with reductions in cortisol, heart rate, and perceived stress. Simultaneously, outdoor physical activity stimulates endorphins, improves cardiovascular function, and increases dopamine and serotonin regulation. Researchers have also explored the evolutionary explanation for these responses, what is known as the biophilia hypothesis, which was originally popularized by the biologist Edward O. Wilson. It proposes that humans possess an innate tendency to seek connections with nature and other forms of life. According to this theory, natural environments historically signal safety, food availability, water access, and opportunities for survival. Urban isolation from this stimuli may therefore contribute to chronic psychological stress and cognitive fatigue. Recent studies comparing outdoor and indoor exercise support this interpretation. A 2023 systemic review in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that exercise performed outdoors often produces greater enjoyment and psychological restoration than equivalent exercises performed indoors. Participants engaging in outdoor activity reported higher levels of positive emotions and motivation for future exercise. Similarly, a 2023 systemic review of nature-based walking interventions found consistent evidence that walking in green environments improves mental health outcomes, including reductions in anxiety and depressive symptoms. Walking outdoors combines two biologically important factors: physical movement and sensory exposure to natural stimuli such as sunlight, vegetation, fresh air, and environmental variability. The implications extend beyond mental health. Outdoor exposure also influences immune function, circadian rhythm regulation, sleep quality, and cognitive performance. Sunlight exposure helps to regulate melatonin and vitamin D synthesis, both of which are associated with mood stabilization and immune resilience. Time spent in forests has additionally been linked to increased activity of natural killer cells, or NK cells, a component of the immune system involved in antiviral and anti-cancer defense. Children may be especially vulnerable to nature deprivation. Pediatric and developmental research increasingly associates reduced outdoor play with rising rates of anxiety, attention difficulties, obesity, and emotional dysregulation. Unstructured outdoor activity appears essential for sensory development, social learning, and cognitive flexibility. In adults, prolonged indoor lifestyles are increasingly associated with sedentary behavior, loneliness, digital overstimulation, and burnout. Urbanization presents a major challenge to this biological reality. More than half of the global population now lives in cities, and access to green space is unevenly distributed. Public health researchers increasingly argue that parks, trails, urban forests, and accessible outdoor recreation should be considered components of preventative healthcare. It's a part of our infrastructure rather than an optional luxury. The medical literature of the past 5 years increasingly converges on a central conclusion. Humans are not separate from nature. The body and brain continue to function as products of an evolutionary environment shaped by sunlight, landscapes, movement, water, vegetation, and ecological diversity. Outdoor activity is therefore more than exercise and leisure. It is a restoration of conditions under which the human biology evolved. As modern life becomes increasingly digital and sedentary, reconnecting with the natural environment may represent one of the simplest and most cost-effective interventions available for improving public health. Whether through walking in parks, gardening, hiking, swimming, or simply spending time outdoors, the evidence suggests that nature remains deeply intertwined with human flourishing. So I wanted to say thank you so much for listening today to today's episode. Remember, there are 2 opportunities each week for new content from the Truth Be Told family of podcasts on the Club Paranormal channel on YouTube. That is Tony Sweet with the original Truth Be Told every Friday. And of course, Truth Be Told About Going Wild every Monday. Both of those shows go live at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern on their respective days. If you're interested in learning more about personal rewilding, forest therapy, or what I'm doing with RH Nature Reconnect, please feel free to visit me online. The website is www.rhnaturereconnect.com. Again, that's www.rhnaturereconnect.com. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. And until next time.